Here we're going to start talking about some points that we considered the last class. Can you remember what we talked about the last class? Can you remember or not? Tell me. Today, sorry because of my voice. Today I have a terrible sore throat. I have a terrible flu. So tell me. What did we talk about the last class? Can you remember? Hello, can you hear me? Yes?
Syntax, teacher, syntax.
Aha, yes, we were talking about syntax, right? Yes, we saw some definitions related to syntax, no? So what is syntax about? Can you tell me? Can you tell me what is syntax about? ¿De qué trataba la sintaxis? ¿No? Eso es lo que vimos en la clase pasada. The syntax. What is syntax?
How to make sentences?
Aha, yes, that's it. How to make sentences. Excellent. We analyze, no, according to Diana, right? So Diana says how to make sentences. So now we are going to start this session by making a review. Vamos a hacer un pequeño repasito. I'm making a review about what we did or what we taught the last class, no? So as you told me, remember, syntax deals or studies or analyze the relation of words to each other. No? This is the aspect that we are going to analyze in syntax. That is a branch of linguistics. No? Remember, the syntax is a branch of linguistics. Linguistics is the analysis, the study of the language. So we're going to analyze or study the language in many aspects. All right. Oh, well, my connection is telling me that it's not so good. Oh, I'm going to turn on my camera just for a while, yeah? Because my connection, I think, is not too good. Just give me a second. Yeah. All right. Can you listen to me well? Yes? All right. Hello. Can you hear me?
Yes, teacher, we can listen.
Yeah, sorry. I don't know what happened with my connection. My connection is not so good. Yeah. All right. So here we have the relation between words, no? The relation that we have when we make sentences. That's why here says as component parts of a sentence. And we are going to analyze the arrangement, not the organization that we have to express our ideas, our meanings clearly, no? The proper arrangement, no? A correct organization. Remember, this is the analysis of syntax. Then we talked about this. Can you remember what is it about? Can you tell me about this? Can you remember about paradigmatic and syntagmatic access? Can you remember about it? ¿Se acuerdan de los dos ejes que íbamos a analizar en la lengua? The paradigmatic and the syntagmatic axis. Can you remember about it? Notice here the diagram. The diagram, we have some, that's good, Floor, about the order, yeah? Okay. So which of these refers to the order? Which of this refers to the order? As Flor says here in the chat.
Syntagmatic axis.
Syntagmatic access.
Yes, that's it. The syntagmatic axis refers to the order, no? The relationship between words in a horizontal way, no? 1 plus 1 plus 1, no? Remember this, this association. 1 plus 1 plus 1. So you're going to join parts in order to make sentences. And what about the paradigmatic? What is the paradigmatic? Syntagmatic, remember, 1 plus 1 plus 1, ¿no? La parte sintagmática habla sobre el orden, ¿no? Voy sumando 1 más 1 más 1 y forma la oración. In paradigmatic, what is the relationship? The possible, tell me, the possible, notice the example, the is the article. Then we have two possible options in the noun, child or horse. Notice, child or horse. And in the verb, we have three options too. We could say walked, ran, kicked. So what is the paradigmatic? The possible options, substitutions. So notice here, substitutions. Don't forget about these two words. Syntagmatic refers to the association. You are going to associate words to make a sentence. 1 plus 1 plus 1. But in the paradigmatic, you talked about, you analyze the possible options, the substitution. So you say 1 or 2 or 3. So you have different options to replace some elements in a sentence. So this is the paradigmatic axis. All right? The paradigmatic axis. So don't forget about these two axes. No se olviden estos dos ejes. Sintagmático es de manera horizontal. Paradigmático de manera vertical, ¿no? Sintagmático me analiza el orden. 1 más 1 más 1. Voy agregando, voy asociando. El paradigmático me analiza las posibles variantes, opciones que yo tengo para cada elemento. Pues 1 or 2 or 3 or 4. So you have different options in order to create different meanings. All right? You create different meanings with different options. So notice these two axes of the language. Then we talked about some characteristics of a sentence, no? So a sentence must have tense. It starts with a capital letter. You use some punctuation marks, such as full stop, question mark, or exclamation mark. The components of a sentence is the subject and a verb. So every sentence should have something or someone doing something. So we analyze some characteristics of a sentence. No? And also, here says that a complete sentence must possess a subject and a predicate. No? So here you have these characteristics of a sentence. Then we talked about the different kinds of subjects and predicates. No? We have simple, complete, and compound. Simple, just a noun, if it is referring to the subject. Just a verb, if we talked about the predicate. Complete, you add some details. No? When we talk about complete, you add some details, some specific characteristics. For example, James, my friend James. So you're giving more information about James. The predicate, jumped, simple, complete, jumped on the bed. So you indicate a location, a movement. So notice you're giving more details about the verb. And a compound, when you join two nouns, if it is the subject, and when you join two verbs, if you refer to the predicate. No? So this is the types of subjects and predicates. And finally, no, at the end of the session, we talked about the different kind of sentences according to their function. No, we saw here, according to their function, we have 4: declarative, interrogative, imperative, and exclamatory. No? So we have these sentences according to the function. What is the role of each sentence when you talk or when you write? No? If you want to express, or would you want to give information, or you want to ask something, or you want to give orders, commands, instructions, or you want to express your feelings. Notice, this is the purpose, the function of each sentence. Tenemos aquí estas oraciones de acuerdo a su función. Estamos clasificándolas de acuerdo a su función. Declarativas, interrogativas, imperativas, exclamativas. This is the 4 kind of sentences according to their function. And finally, at the end of the class, we talked about, and this is what I told you, that we are going to talk about this topic because we talked about it in a hurry, no fast. So we're going to talk about this topic more. So here we have according to the structure, how you're going to make these sentences. On the previous one was referring to the function, the purpose of each sentence, the purpose of communication. Remember, when you speak or you write, you're communicating. So there are some functions, there are some purposes of communication: to give information, to ask a question, to ask something, to give orders, instructions, commands, requests, or you can express your feelings of emotion using the exclamatory sentences. But here we have, according to the structure, we have simple sentence, compound sentence, complex sentence, and compound complex sentence. So we have these 4 kind of sentences when we talk about their structure. Simple sentence, remember, just contain one independent clause. What is a clause? I want to remark here. Then on the next slides, we're going to focus more with referring to this term, clause. What is a clause? It's a unit of writing that can stand alone. A clause. Do you have any other idea about a clause? ¿Tienen alguna otra idea sobre una cláusula? ¿Qué es una cláusula? Clause, ¿no? In Spanish, clause. What is a clause? Here it says a unit of writing that can stand alone. Do you have any other idea about what a clause is?
Don't you, will you, don't you?
Yeah, will you, don't you? Yeah, there is not exactly a clause. Yeah, this is, it is part of that question, right? A clause.
Disculpe,
Yeah, tell me, dígame.
una cláusula carece de sentido, pero sigue siendo una oración porque tiene sujeto y predicado.
Aha, yeah. A clause is similar to a sentence in the structure. But as we have seen before, a sentence must have a complete sense. That's the difference with a clause. A clause doesn't have a complete sense. It could have, notice, it could have the structure of a sentence, subject and a verb, but it doesn't have a complete sense. This is perfect. Acuérdense, una cláusula es una unidad, como dice ahí, una unidad de la escritura que puede ir sola, tiene la misma estructura de una oración, pero no tiene sentido completo. Por eso no se le llama oración, por decirlo así. ¿Ya? Va a tener la misma estructura, pero por lo general no tiene sentido completo. This is in general terms. This is a clause. No? For example, when we talk about conditional sentences, can you remember about conditional sentences? ¿Se acuerdan de las oraciones condicionales? How do you make conditional sentences? ¿Cómo hago?
With clause. With clause, teacher.
The if clause and the result clause, no? The condition clause and the result clause. Yes. So notice this sentence is composed by 2 clauses. Entonces, para que tomen rápidamente una idea de la diferencia entre cláusula y oración. Por ahí a veces nos confundimos y, esta es una oración, esta es cláusula. No, nos confunde en algunos aspectos. Por eso yo siempre doy este ejemplo de las oraciones condicionales. Las oraciones condicionales se forman con dos cláusulas, la cláusula de condición y la cláusula de resultado. Miren, y ahí también vamos a ver un poquito cuando hablamos de oraciones compuestas o complejas, ¿no? Más que todo complejas. Tengo una cláusula dependiente y una cláusula independiente. Una dependiente donde no va a tener sentido y otra que podría tener sentido, pero necesita siempre de algo para tener un sentido completo. Ahí noto rápidamente la diferencia entre cláusula y oración. La oración condicional está compuesta por dos cláusulas. No es lo mismo, oración, cláusula, no es lo mismo. Entonces ahí puedo notar. ¿Ya? So, notice a simple sentence, he has this one independent clause, and also it could have 47 phrases, but only one independent clause. So it means that it can stand alone. Remember, can stand alone. However, the clause may be comprised of a compound element, such as a compound object or compound predicate. So you can make compound nouns or compound verbs, no, as we have seen before, different kind of subjects and different kind of predicates. So it could have a compound subject and it could have a compound predicate, but it's still a simple sentence. All right? It's still a simple sentence. It's not a compound sentence. It's not a complex sentence because it's just one clause, independent clause or a statement. Also, you may place a comma, but it will be for reasons other than being required by sentence type. For example, he studies English. Notice he studies English. It has only one subject. Jill has purchased the paper materials for the assignment, but has not purchased the CD she needs. Simple sentence with compound predicates because we have two verbs. Notice two verbs, but these two verbs are referring to the same subject. You don't change the subject. Notice Jill has purchased, but he hasn't purchased. Notice we have two, so we call that it has a compound predicate, all right? But it's a simple sentence, don't forget about it. Then we have the compound sentences. So here we're going to join two independent clauses. And it can be, or they can be separated from each other in three different ways, no? We have using a comma and a conjunction, using a transitional expression or longer linking words, and finally, omitting the conjunction, but you use a punctuation mark, that is the semicolon. No? Instead of using the conjunction, you use the semicolon. For example, I love conjunctive adverbs, but my students love each other. So we have two independent clauses that stand alone. And you use a comma. Notice the comma before the conjunction is needed. All right? You use a comma. John is not able to help me. I plan to ask Susan for help. So what do we use here? Again, we have two independent clauses. Remember, when we talk about independent clause, it means that they can stand alone, pueden ir solas. No pierde la idea, no pierde el mensaje. Por eso le dice que puede ir sola, ¿no? Clauses that stand alone. The conjunction is missing, therefore, you use the semicolon to separate two independent clauses. I can name several conjunctive adverbs. Consequently, my friends are impressed. Two independent clauses separated with transitional expression consequently. Therefore, the semicolon before and a comma after are required. Notice here the punctuation mark, no? Then we talked about these these conjunctions, these connecting words with the proper punctuation. No? You have here and, so you use with a comma, no, before, yet, either, comma, or, not only, comma, but also. So you have here different conjunctions with the proper punctuation. Now, let's talk about the complex sentences. The complex sentences, we have not now two independent clauses. No, now we have one independent clause and a dependent clause. Notice, dependent and independent. Independent clauses can stand alone, but dependent clauses cannot stand alone. They are depending on the independent clause to provide complete meaning. Notice why they cannot be alone, why they cannot stand alone, because if you write this clause, it doesn't have a complete meaning. So it needs the other clause to have a complete meaning. So, three types of dependent parts are found in complex sentences, and their location and type affect how they are punctuated. For example, if the dependent clause part is located at the beginning of a sentence, it is set off from the independent part with a comma. If the dependent part is located within the independent part and is not essential to complete the meaning of the sentence, the dependent part is surrounded by commas. And the final structure is if the dependent part is located within the independent clause, but it's essential to complete the meaning of a sentence, the dependent part is not surrounded by commas. So notice here, we have three different structures to make complex sentences. But don't forget, in order to make complex sentence, we use one dependent and one independent. And the position that you place is so important here. Notice if you place first the dependent clause, so then you have to separate this with a comma. If the dependent clause is not essential, notice it's not essential to the meaning of the sentence, so you separate this clause with commas, one before and one after. And the last, if the dependent part is located within, notice this is within, inside. Abraham, your microphone, please. All right, thank you, Brian. So if the dependent part is located within, remember, means inside, no? Inside a sentence, so, and it's essential to the meaning of the sentence, you don't use any commas. Let's see some examples. Notice here, this is an example of a complex sentence. Because life is complex, comma, we need complex sentences. Notice that it has a dependent clause within the independent clause. The dependent clause is at the beginning. Notice it's at the beginning of the sentence. All right, I'm going to remark it. Notice here, this is the dependent clause. All right, dependent clause. Because it doesn't have a complete meaning. Imagine that you omit, notice, imagine that you omit this part. You omit that, you take it out. So because life is complex, does it have a complete meaning? ¿Tiene un significado completo? No, right? It doesn't have a complete meaning. So we call this a dependent clause. This is the, oh, Lisbeth, your microphone, please.
Dependent clause.
Okay, thank you, Lisbeth. All right, that's good, Lisbeth. All right, so notice this is a dependent clause because it doesn't have a complete meaning. It needs another clause to have a complete meaning. No necesita. Miren, esta cláusula se le llama dependiente porque necesita de otra cláusula para tener un significado completo. It needs the other part. It needs the other part. Because life is complex, comma, notice that we use here a comma, all right? We're using here a comma. Then we have the independent clause. The independent clauses, we need complex sentences. So notice here how we are going to make this the first structure of a complex sentence. For example, the conditional sentence has this structure, right? If, this is the dependent clause, and then the result clause is the independent clause. So we have this structure and we use a comma, all right? And we use a comma. Notice, for example, I'm going to write here an example, a conditional sentence, in order to understand clear. If, if I study hard, I will, this is a very common example, no? I will pass my exams. Yeah, notice here. This is a complex sentence. If I study hard, comma, I will pass my exam. So you place the dependent clause first, so you need to separate it with the independent clause with a comma. But what happens if I place the dependent clause after? So what do? Can you tell me? What happens if I change the positions? If I say, I will pass my exams.
You don't need a comma?
Yes. Notice, we don't need a comma. You don't write a comma. If I study hard. Notice, so the position of the dependent clause, this is the general rule. If you place the dependent clause first, so you need to write a comma at the end of the dependent clause, as you can see here, right? As you can see here. So you use a comma. If I study hard, this is the dependent clause, comma, I will pass my exams. But if you change the position, notice that you don't use a comma. You don't use a comma. All right? Okay, now let's continue with the other example. I'm going to erase my drawings. Yeah. The second example. My father, comma, who just celebrated his 50th birthday, comma, plans to retire when he is 60. Notice that we add here a clause which is inside. Notice this clause which is dependent. Notice this is a dependent clause because if you take out the other parts, notice I'm going to take out the other part. For example, imagine that you just have this. Who just celebrated his 50th birthday. So, does it have a complete sense?
No.
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 No. Yes. We don't have a complete sense. So this is the dependent clause. Notice, this is the dependent clause. But what is special about it? It is inside. Miren, esta cláusula dependiente está dentro de la oración, parte de la oración, ¿no? De la cláusula independiente. La cláusula independiente está partida. En medio estoy poniendo una cláusula dependiente. But what happened with this independent clause? Or dependent clause, sorry. That it is with commas. 2 commas. Exactly. We have 2 commas. One before and one after. No? A comma. A comma. 2 commas. Why? Why do we use 2 commas? Because this part is not essential. Remember, is not essential to the meaning, the complete meaning
Yeah.
of a sentence. So it means that it's not so necessary. If you take out this, now we are going to take out this part. Notice, I'm going to take out this. So the sentence is, my father plans to retire when he's 60. Does it have a complete meaning?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. So notice, this part that we add inside within the sentence is not necessary. You're just adding information. All right? You're just adding information. Estoy añadiendo información. No es necesaria. Por lo tanto, utilizo las dos comitas. Two commas. Notice, two commas. But it's a complex sentence because you're using a dependent clause and independent clause, right? So notice, for example, in our language, how do we call this structure in our language? ¿Cómo le llamamos a esto en nuestro idioma? Cuando utilizo estas dos comitas. ¿Alguno se acuerda? A ver, comunicación, colegio. ¿Cómo le llamo a esta estructura sintáctica? Donde estoy añadiendo información dentro de una oración y lo separo por comas.
Is a position, a posición.
Yes, la posición. Yes, that's it. Very good, very good. Yes, we call this the position, the positive form, no? So we are using the two commas because this information is not essential. You're just adding information. Estoy añadiendo información. So notice, this is the second structure. Yeah? This is the second structure, how to make complex sentences. Now, let's continue with the other one. sorry, my throat is terrible. All right, let's pass to the third one. The car that is parked on the street needs to be moved. Notice that we have again a dependent clause. This is the dependent clause. If we omit, again, we are going to do it again. If we omit this part and we omit this part, notice, and we have just this, that is parked on the street, it doesn't have a complete sense, right? It doesn't have a complete meaning. But notice what is the difference with the previous one, with number 2. Can you tell me? ¿Cuál es la diferencia de la oración 3 con la oración 2? Ambas tienen cláusulas dependientes que cortan la oración. What is the difference?
Here you don't use the commas.
Aha, exactly. Very good. No commas. Why?
Por el dato.
Oh, sorry. Lucy?
You use a word that is a connection, like to connect the idea.
Yeah, all right. So we're using that. No, that, who. Remember that we saw these terms when we talked about the relative pronouns, no? And the relative sentences, no? Dependent, independent, defining and not defining relative clauses, no? So notice, what is the difference with sentence number 2? That this information is essential. Notice now I'm going to take it out this part. I'm going to take it out this part. Oh, sorry. I think it's too big. Yeah, all right. I'm going to omit this part. Remember, we are going to omit. Imagine that we omit this part. Yeah, so we have the car needs to be moved. But which car? I don't know which car. So you need, notice, you need something more. You need something more to have a complete meaning. That's why you say, oh, the car that is parked on the street. So it means that you need this information. It's essential. It's essential to have a complete meaning. That's why we don't use commas. Notice, we don't use commas. This is the difference with sentence number 2. In sentence number 2, we have an extra part, an dependent clause, but it's not essential, so you use commas. In the third sentence, you have a dependent clause inside a sentence, but this time, this clause is essential to complete the meaning of the sentence. So it means that you're not going to use commas around it. All right? Remember these two structures. When it's not essential, you use commas. When it's not essential, you use commas. When it's essential, you don't use any commas. All right? You don't use any commas. And don't forget about that. Diane, you use the word that, no, that connects. This is a relative clause. Now remember, when we talk about defining and non-defining relative clauses, we use who, that, no? Who, when we refer to people, that to refer to people or places or things, no, where. So we have these kind of words. All right. So don't forget about these sentences in order to make complex sentences, okay? Here you have some connecting words typically used in complex sentences. No? For example, when we talk about time, we have after, before, until, when, while, as. When we talk about cause, because, since, so that, as if. Condition, unless, although, if, whether or not, even though. Relation, you use the relative pronouns, who, whose, whom, that, which, what, whatever. So notice that we're going to use these connecting words to join dependent and independent clauses to make complex sentences. All right? Now, let's continue with the other one. Compound complex sentences. So notice here we're going to join compound. Remember, compound, two independent clauses. Complex, one dependent, one independent. Don't forget about it. Las oraciones compuestas, dos cláusulas independientes. Y las oraciones complejas, una dependiente, una independiente. Don't forget about it. When we talk about compound and complex sentences, we're going to join this. We're going to mix, blend these two sentences together. A complex compound sentence contains two or more independent clauses and one or more dependent part. These sentences use conjunctions and subordinators. Because I am an English teacher, comma, some people expect me to speak perfectly, comma, and other people expect to write perfectly. So notice that we are using here a combination of clauses. It has two independent clauses and one dependent clause. I am an English teacher, and it uses a subordinator because and a conjunction and. Notice that here we have the dependent clause. I'm going to remark it here. The dependent clause is because I'm an English teacher. This is the dependent. All right. I'm going to write it here. Dependent clause. Okay. This is the dependent clause because I'm an English teacher. And on the other two clauses are independent. Some people expect me to speak and other people expect to write perfectly. So these are independent. Independent. Okay? So here we have two independent clauses and one dependent clause. We have a subordinator that is because, and we have a conjunction that is an. Notice here, I'm going to remark it. Because, I'm going to do it again. Yeah, because is a subordinator, and then we have the conjunction that is and. And is the conjunction. Tengo aquí dos tipos de palabras, de conectores. Uno que es un subordinador, pues estoy haciendo una cláusula dependiente. Ese because es un subordinador porque estoy hablando de una cláusula dependiente. Y el and es una conjunción donde uno o dos cláusulas independientes. Independent clauses. All right? So we have here a compound complex sentence. Two independent clauses, one dependent clause. Okay, I'm going to clear my board. All right. Okay, so don't forget about these four types of sentences. Yeah, we have these four types of sentences: simple, compound, complex, and compound complex. All right? According to their structure. Yeah? Remember that this is according to their structure. We have these four types of sentences because according to their function, we have other four, no? That is the exclamative, declarative, interrogative, imperative. So this is according to their function. According to their structure, we have four again. We have simple, compound, complex, and compound complex. Now, let's talk about the different parts in a sentence. As you could see, when we make sentences, we're going to use phrases. We're going to use some syntax. Let's see, let's start talking about some of these parts. A sentence, as you know, we are going to make it with two parts, two principal parts, a noun syntagm and a verb syntagm. So now my question, what is a syntagm? Any idea about it? Because I say that a sentence is composed by two syntax. What is a syntagm?
It's a group of words like a phrase.
Excellent. A syntagm is a group of words, also known as a phrase. Aha, perfect. So don't forget, a syntagm is a word or group of words that compose a syntactic unit. And in order to make a sentence, we are going to use two. Remember that we were talking about the syntagmatic and paradigmatic. So notice, syntagmatic is how we are going to order the words, how we are going to use the words together to make a sentence. That's why we call syntax, because we're analyzing the syntagmatic relationship, not the paradigmatic. Syntagmatic. So we use syntax. And we have two essentials because we have more. Yeah, we have more symptoms or phrases. But the two essentials are noun symptom and verb symptom. These two symptoms have some important elements or parts. For example, the nucleus of a noun symptom or noun phrase, notice, you could call this as a phrase too. Yeah? The nucleus or the most important part in a noun symptom or a noun phrase is the noun. That's what a name, no? Noun. And obviously, on the other side, in a verb symptom, the most important part is the verb. Noun and verb. So these are the nucleus. Remember, the nucleus. of a noun syntagm and a noun phrase is a noun. Of a verb syntagm or verb phrase is the verb. Then you add some complements to these elements. What are the complements? Adjectives when we talk about nouns, and adverbs when we talk about verbs. No, remember that adjectives are words which qualify the nouns, and the adverbs as words which qualify the verbs. No, but not only the verbs. You can qualify the adjectives too. No, but the most principal function of adverbs is to qualify verbs. No, so we use these complements. No, for example, when you say a boy or the boy, no, the boy. So you can add that tall boy, the handsome boy, the pretty boy. And notice you're adding an adjective. You're adding a complement. In the verb, oh, the handsome boy was walking. Then you can add was walking in a hurry or hurriedly, fast. You're adding information about this verb. Then we have some secondary elements, determiners. So the determiners are the articles, pronouns, demonstratives. And on the other part, we could use prepositions or conjunctions. Notice here we are going to use these elements. Notice how we are going to make a sentence. First, we have two syntax, two phrases, principal, because we have more. The noun syntagm of the noun phrase and the verb syntagm of the verb phrase. What is the nucleus of each syntagm? Noun and a verb. Then you can add more elements, adjectives or adverbs, or you could use some secondary elements such as articles, pronouns, no? Demonstratives. And on the noun phrase or the verb phrase or the verb syntagm, we use prepositions, conjunctions, no? As we have seen before, no? In order to make compound and complex sentences, we're going to use conjunctions. All right? And also prepositions. So notice here the morphological elements in a sentence. No, we are analyzing the morphological elements. Why do we say morphological elements? Because when we talk about morphology, we're going to talk about words. And we're using here words, nouns, adjectives, verbs, adverbs, articles, pronouns, prepositions, conjunctions. And notice something important. Why do we call the last part secondary? Why? You have an idea? ¿Por qué a la última parte la llamo secundaria?
Because they are words not more important. They are additional words.
Yeah, all right, that's good, that's good. Any other idea, any other idea? No more ideas. ¿Por qué llamo yo estas partes, estos elementos secundarios? A los artículos, a los pronombres, a los demostrativos, a las preposiciones, a las conjunciones. ¿Por qué las llamo secundarias? No, nobody? Yeah.
Because
yeah, tell me.
Because they can work by itself without this.
Yeah, there is one idea. All right. We're getting close. Nos acercamos. Aunque todas estas palabras pueden ir solas, ¿no? Dentro de una oración. Pero hay una diferencia muy importante. So, I'm going to remark it. And you have to tell me. Notice that when we talk about words, we're going to divide words in two main groups. The first group is composed by noun, verbs, adjectives, and adverbs. Yeah, tell me around.
Yeah, another thing is because these words, we call secondary words, the sentence can work by itself, no? Another thing is they can work. We can use we can make the sentence without this noun, this word in this case, no? Articles, pronouns, it's not necessarily using this word. That's why, you know, we consider secondary word.
Yeah.
Teacher, if you use this word alone,
Uh-huh.
they haven't sense.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
It's necessary to add this word to a noun to be a sense.
Yeah. All right. All right. Okay. So they need, no? They need, yeah. But let me tell you something. I'm going to write here a sentence. A simple one, a simple one. For example, you say, the boy looks that woman. Yeah, notice the sentence, a simple sentence. Imagine that you take out this word, the article, you take out the demonstrative. You just have nouns and verbs, no? We have boy, woman, nouns, looks, verbs. Is it complete? Boy looks woman. You're talking like Tarzan, ¿no? Estamos hablando como Tarzan. Boy looks woman. So notice, the article and the determining, as Abraham says, they are not necessary. They are necessary, but they are not so important. Because,
Teacher,
tell me.
They're not, no, exactly, no, they are necessary, but we can understand by itself, no?
Yeah.
Important to determine the sentence. That's it's understanding, no?
Yeah, all right. You can understand, but it's not so correct, right? Boy looks woman.
Exactly.
Boy looks woman is not correct to say that, no? So that's why we use here the article and the demonstrative. And notice what Lucy says. Now let's take out these words. Boy looks and woman. So you have just that and that. That is worst. Ya es peor, ¿no? Aquí sí ya no entendemos nada, ¿no? That. Me quedo con el artículo y me quedo con el demostrativo. No tienen nada, no hay nada ahí, ¿no? That. Él, eso, ya perdí. No hay sentido, nada. Ni uno. So notice, here, we are going to define, or we are going to recognize these two groups. Remember, these two groups are noun, verb, adjectives, and adverbs. How do we call these words? ¿Cómo llamo yo este grupo de palabras? Que está envuelto el sustantivo, el verbo, los adjetivos y los adverbios. ¿Cómo los llamo? A ver, ¿alguien se puede recordar? Vimos un poquito de eso en morfología.
Adjective orders.
Yeah. They have a name. Hay un nombre que se le da a este grupo de palabras. A los sustantivos, a los verbos, a los adjetivos y a los adverbios. ¿Cómo se los llama? A ver, ¿se acuerdan?
Categorías gramaticales.
The function verb.
Function words? No. A ver.
Grammatical category.
Grammatical categories, yeah, but which are they? ¿Cuáles son? A ver. Yeah. Remember?
Yeah, we call word classes.
Yeah, word classes when we define nouns, adjective, verbs.
Because we're talking about noun, pronoun, verb, adverb, determiner, etc., no?
Yes, these are the word classes in general, ¿no? In general. But we are going to group them. Ahora lo estoy agrupando. Junto los sustantivos, adjetivos, verbos, adverbios, un grupo. Y del otro grupo tengo artículos, pronombres, demostrativos, preposiciones, conjunciones, otro grupo. ¿Cómo se llama cada grupo?
En castellano, teacher, variables e invariables.
Variables, ya, invariables, muy bien. Ahí estamos por ahí, por ejemplo, la última dice partes invariables, ¿no? No va a haber cambios. En cambio, las otras sí puedo ir cambiando. A ver. Les digo, pero sí lo hemos visto eso en el anterior mes. Acuérdense de estas dos palabritas, que es muy importante. Vamos a tener aquí... Vamos a,
Syntax.
ya, ambos son syntagms, ¿no? Noun syntagm, verb syntagm. Inside a noun syntagm, we could have adjectives, articles, pronouns, demonstratives. Inside a verb syntagm, we could have verbs, adverbs, prepositions, conjunctions. So don't forget about it. Don't forget about this word. Content words. This is the first group. And the second group, as Lucy says, if I'm not confused, the second group, notice this group of determiners and invariable parts are called function words. Acuérdense, esos son los dos grupos que vamos a tener. Yo clasifico las palabras en dos grupos principales. Palabras de contenido y palabras de función. Por eso se le llama secundario, porque solamente tienen la función de unir las palabras de contenido y darle un mejor aspecto, ¿no? Porque los que llevan el significado, ¿cuáles son? El sustantivo, los adjetivos, los verbos, los adverbios, ellos llevan significado. Por eso se les llama de contenido. Llevan un contenido. En cambio, las palabras de función no llevan contenido. Solamente me sirven de conectores para darle una mejor forma, ¿no? Y como les dije anteriormente en la oración, que está arriba y no hablar como Tarzán, ¿no? Boy looks woman. No, ahí tengo que decir, the boy looks that woman. Miren, ese da y that le está dando forma, ¿no? Le da un mejor aspecto a la oración. No les da contenido porque el contenido es boy looks woman. Ahí está el contenido, ahí está el significado. Las otras palabritas solamente son de función, por eso se les llama secundarias. Pero como son secundarias no quiere decir que no sean necesarias. Sí son necesarias, ¿no? Sí son necesarias en varios aspectos, ¿no? Pero no llevan el mensaje, no llevan el contenido. Acuérdense, content words and function words. Content words, noun, adjectives, verbs, adverbs. Function words, we have articles, pronouns, demonstratives, prepositions, conjunctions. Also here you have the interjections, the auxiliary verbs. Notice here, the auxiliary verbs or modal verbs are also called function word, no? Because they don't have a content. They have just a grammatical aspect. No, when we talk about morphemes, remember, when we talk about morphemes, these are the grammatical morphemes. These are the grammatical. These are not the lexical morphemes. The lexical morphemes are the nouns, adjectives, verbs, adverbs. The grammatical morphemes, free grammatical morphemes, are the articles, pronouns, demonstratives, prepositions, conjunctions. So notice here the two divisions of words, no? And we are going to make sentences with these words. The most important words in a sentence are noun, adjectives, verbs, and adverbs. These are the most important. The other word or secondary elements are the function words, articles, pronouns, demonstratives, prepositions, conjunctions. They give a shape of a sentence. No? They don't have the content. They shape the sentence, ¿no? Forman, le dan un mejor aspecto a la oración, ¿no? No se olviden estos dos grupos, ¿eh? No se vayan a olvidar. Grupo de palabras de contenido y palabras de función. Now, let's continue. So remember, these are the morphological elements in a sentence. Now, let's talk about here a sentence that is special. We are going to use this sentence a lot. That is the kernel sentence. Maybe you haven't heard this sentence before, but this is very common. Look at this sentence. James, comma, a 5-year-old kid, comma, loves ballad music. So you have here, this sentence is composed, notice, this sentence is composed by James loves music, James is a kid. All right? So notice here that we can separate these two ideas. James loves music, James is a kid. So a kernel sentence is the simple sentence that we can make in a language. Yeah, remember, kernel sentence is the simplest. All right, the simplest sentence that you can make in a language. For example, James, a 5-year-old kid, loves ballet music. You're joining two simple sentences. James loves music. James is a kid. So, kernel sentence, it is a sentence reduced to its simplest form. Acuérdense, una oración kernel es una oración que está reducida a su forma más sencilla, más simple. It is simple and declarative sentence. It conveys only one idea. Notice, one idea, no two ideas, one idea. It is in the active voice. The subject, the doer of the action, comes first in the sentence structure. Notice, it is always in the active voice. Siempre va a estar en voz activa. ¿Qué significa la voz activa? Que siempre el sujeto, o sea, el que hace la acción, va a estar primero en la oración, ¿no? En la estructura de la oración. A eso le llama la voz activa, ¿no? Y también hay una voz pasiva, ¿no? The passive voice. Hay cambio, ¿no? We change. The object becomes the subject and the subject becomes the object, ¿no? So, a kernel sentence, remember, a kernel sentence is a sentence reduced to its simplest form. And it's always simple sentence and declarative sentence. So you give information, all right? You give information. It has just one idea, and it's always in the active voice. It means the doer of the action is first in the sentence structure. For example, the hanging bridge is scary. Here, this is a simple sentence, right? But this sentence is composed by two ideas. So you can separate two ideas from the simple sentence. You make this more simple. So you have the bridge is hanging. This is one idea. The bridge is scary. This is the second idea. So the first and the second are called kernel sentences. La oración 1 y la oración 2 son llamadas oraciones kernel. Acuérdense, la oración kernel es la oración más sencilla que hay. La más básica. Contiene una sola idea. Siempre va a estar en voz activa. Siempre va a ser una oración simple y una oración declarativa. Miren, no confundir con la oración simple y la oración kernel. La oración kernel es la más básica que hay. Por ejemplo, la oración que tienen ahí, the hanging bridge is scary, es una oración simple. Pero la puedo reducir más todavía aún. Y ahí formo la oración kernel. The bridge is hanging, one idea. The bridge is scary, a second idea. Notice here, these are the kernel sentence. The simplest form of a sentence is called a kernel sentence. Good games are short. So you could have here, the games are good, the games are short. Notice we have two ideas, two kernel sentences. The games are good, the games are short. I want to go. I want, I go. So notice, very, very simple. All right, these are the kernel sentence. don't forget, the simplest form of a sentence. So this kernel sentence is composed by a noun phrase and also is composed by a verb phrase. But we can make it also with an interjection. No, remember that we use interjection to express your feelings, your emotions. No, this is the use of interjections. So this is the composition. Notice this is the composition of a kernel sentence. The simplest form. Remember, this is the simplest form of a sentence. Now, when we talked about sentence, as we have seen before, we have two essential parts, the noun phrase and the verb phrase. The noun phrase or noun syntagm, remember, you can call noun phrase or noun syntagm. The noun phrase functions as the subject of the kernel sentence. And the verb phrase functions as its predicate. So we have the sentence, noun phrase, and a verb phrase. Notice this is the most important part, no? Of phrases that we can make a sentence. The noun phrase and the verb phrase. So the noun phrase, the man. The verb phrase, writes a letter. And the man writes a letter. So we have the basic composition of a sentence, no? Composed by two phrases, the noun phrase and the verb phrase. The noun phrase is the subject and the verb phrase is the predicate. All right? Remember, so here we are going to focus on something more. Remember, phrase and clause. Ahora vamos a hacer una diferencia entre qué es una frase y qué es una cláusula. Hace un momento vimos diferencia entre oración y cláusula. Ahora vamos a hacer la diferencia entre frase y cláusula. Clause. Notice here, a clause is a part of the sentence that contains a verb. A typical clause consists of a subject and a predicate, the later typically a verb phrase, a verb with any objects and other modifiers. So notice here the different clauses. He must stop laughing, they have done the job, Tom likes the meat, we like the music that you brought. Teacher, we have sentences here. Yes. Some sentences are composed by independent clauses, and some, as we have seen before, composed by dependent and independent or two independent clauses. For example, the last sentence, we like the music that you brought. So we have two clauses here, right? Two clauses. This sentence is composed by two clauses. What about the phrase? What is the phrase? A phrase is a small group of words that adds meaning to a sentence. A phrase is not a sentence because it is not a complete idea with a subject, verb, or a predicate. For example, the information age. This is a noun phrase. Earnest and her desire. This is an adjective phrase. Much too quickly to see clearly, an adverb phrase. After a very long walk, a prepositional phrase. Notice the difference between a clause and a phrase. A phrase is a group of words, similar to say a syntagm, no? A syntagm, a group of words that adds meaning to a sentence. Acuérdense, una frase es un grupo de palabras que le va a dar significado, va a añadir significado a una oración. En cambio, la cláusula no. La cláusula es parte de la oración y por lo general tienen la misma estructura de una oración. Por eso que hay oraciones que están compuestas de una cláusula independiente y hay oraciones que están compuestas de dos cláusulas independientes que son las compuestas, o de una dependiente y una independiente que son las complejas, o de dos independientes y una dependiente que son las compuestas complejas, ¿no? Por eso se les llama cláusulas. En cambio, las frases son un grupo de palabras o sintagmas, ¿no? Acuérdense, frases o sintagmas. Ahí tengo el sintagma nominal o noun phrase, o la frase nominal, sintagma nominal o frase nominal. Es lo mismo, ¿no? Es lo mismo. Es un grupo de palabras, ¿no? Que va a añadir significado a una oración. Don't forget about these differences between the clause and a phrase. Now, let's start or continue talking about the noun phrase. We have to continue talking about the noun phrase. Sorry, I'm gonna drink some water because I have a terrible sore throat. Yeah, let's continue. In a noun phrase, one or more words work together to give more information about a noun. Remember, when we talk about noun phrase, the principle, the nucleus of a noun phrase is a noun. So you could use one or more words, no, to give information about a noun. Examples. All my dear children. Notice this is the noun phrase. All my dear children. The information age. 17 hungry lions in the rocks. So all of these are phrases. All of these are noun phrases. Why do we say that these are the noun phrases? Because we have the noun. Children. The information. Lions. So we have nouns, and we're giving more information about the nouns. Children, all my dear children. Formation, the information age. Lions, 17 hungry lions in the rocks. So you're giving more information about the noun. In this case, children, information, and lions. So this is the noun phrase. What about the other? The verb phrase. Again, one or more words work together to give more meaning to a verb. Notice we're giving, or we are using one or more words working together to give more meaning to a verb. For example, you have woken up everyone in the neighborhood. Walking on the ice. To make lemonade. So we have the verb phrases. All right? These are the verb phrases. You're using one or more words together to give more meaning to the verb. Another phrase. We have other phrases. The adjective phrase. One or more words work together to give more information about an adjective. So very sweet. What is the adjective here?
Sweet.
Sweet is the adjective. But you are using other words to intensify. Notice, so very sweet. You're intensifying. That's why this word very, a lot of, no? Yes, excellent. These are called adverbs or adverbials, no? Very is an adverb, so it's another adverb. So because you're intensifying, notice, you're intensifying this adjective, no? So very sweet. too sweet, no? So sweet. Very happy with his work. So we are using here the adjective phrase. Now, let's pass to the adverb phrase. Again, one or more words work together to give more information about an adverb. Especially softly, especially softly. So, what do you have here?
Adverb.
Two adverbs.
Yes, we have two adverbs, but one is intensifying the other one, right? Or is
Yeah.
giving more details about the adverb. No, softly is the principal adverb. So you add,
Especially soft.
excellent, especially softly. So this is an adverb phrase. Formerly of the city of Peru. Here there's a mistake. It's Peru, all right? Or Perth. Sorry, it's a city, no? A city of Perth. Sorry. Formerly of the city of Perth. So this is the name of the city. Formerly is the adverb, and it's at the beginning of this phrase. Formerly of the city of Perth. Too quickly. It's another adverb phrase. Another adverb phrase. Too quickly. All right? So we have different kind of phrases. No? Different kind of phrases. Another one, prepositional phrase. Again, one or more words work together to give information about time, location, or possession, or condition. The preposition always appears at the front of the phrase. Let's see some examples. After a very long walk. Notice the preposition after a very long walk. Behind the old building. Behind the old building. It's another prepositional phrase. For all the hungry children. For all the hungry children. So you're using prepositions in order to indicate time, location, possession, or condition. And you use the preposition at the beginning, no? At the front of the phrase. After a very long walk, behind the old building, for all the hungry children. So you have here the prepositional phrase. All right? So, before passing to the other part, notice that we have different phrases. We have noun phrase, verb phrase, adjective phrase, adverb phrase, prepositional phrase. So we have different phrases to make a sentence. Now let's talk about more about the noun phrase. In order to make noun phrase, we're going to use proper nouns, we're going to use personal pronouns, we're going to use indefinite pronouns, and we are going to use determiners plus nouns. So we are going to use all of these structures to make noun phrases. We just use nouns, proper nouns, or you could use pronouns, personal pronouns or subject pronouns. We could use indefinite pronouns, and also we could use determiners plus nouns. Let's see. Let's talk about each one. Proper nouns. When we talk about proper nouns, we're going to talk about the names of particular people, places, or things. They are usually unique, and they are written with initial capital letters. Now we know, all we know is the proper nouns, no? Refer to particular people, places, or things They refer to unique things, people, or places, and we usually write it in with a capital letter. No, the initial letter is capital. The main classes of proper nouns are personal names, for example, Peter, Mario, Mr. Torres. So we have names, personal names. They are proper nouns. Calendar items, for example, festivals, Christmas Day, New Year, Independence Day. Months, June, July, April. Don't forget to start with a capital letter when you write months. Days, Monday, Tuesday, always with capital letters. Don't forget, you have to write this with capital letters. The initial letter is with a capital one, not with a small letter, capital letter. Don't forget it, because sometimes we get confused or we forgot and we write the days and the months using small letters. No, with capital letters. Also, we have geographical names, continents, America, Africa, Asia, countries, Peru, Bolivia, Brazil, cities and towns, California, Miami, Toronto, lakes, Titicaca Lake, Silver Lake, mountains, Mount Everest, Vesuvius. Also, we have name plus a common noun, Madison Avenue, Kennedy Airport. So we use the name and a common noun, no? The name Madison, the common noun Avenue, Madison Avenue. Also, the other Kennedy is the name and the common noun is airport, Kennedy Airport. So notice here that we have this, all right? This is structure, yeah? Because, for example, this is different in our language, no? In our language is on the other side, no? You say, la avenida Madison. En inglés es al revés. Madison Avenue. El aeropuerto Kennedy. In English is the other side, Kennedy Airport. No se olviden eso, por favor. Hay veces cuando uno quiere traducir del inglés al español, hay veces nos fijamos tanto en la estructura española y cometemos varios errores. Acuérdense de ese orden. So here you have some structure referring to the noun phrase. Just give me, okay. So you have here, the noun phrase is a personal noun, a name, Peter. Peter goes to school. Another, California. California is a big city. Personal pronouns. So we have the personal pronouns, you know, I, he, she, we, they. No, these are the personal pronouns. So you use as a noun phrase. I am in class. Oh, sorry for the mistake. We study English. So notice that we have the personal pronouns as a noun phrase. These are considered noun phrases. The indefinite pronouns. What are the indefinite pronouns? Indefinite pronouns, we have some, any, no, every. And we refer to people, things, or places. No, these are the indefinite pronouns. Someone or somebody, something, somewhere. Any, anyone, anybody, anything, anywhere. With no, no one, nobody, nothing, nowhere. And with every, everyone, everybody, everything, everywhere. No, so notice we call this the indefinite pronouns. No, why would you call them indefinite? Because we are not determining, we're not specifying who, what, or where we're talking about. Acuérdense que se les llama pronombres indefinidos porque no determino, no especifico de quién de qué o de dónde estoy hablando. Entonces, someone, alguien, ¿no? No sé quién, alguien. Something, algo. Somewhere, algún lugar, pero no defino qué lugar. Por eso se les llama pronombres indefinidos. Acuérdense, indefinite pronouns. Y utilizo las palabritas some, any, no, every. Some se refiere a alguna cantidad, ¿no? Any, también alguna cantidad. Solo que diferencia está en la oración en que voy a utilizarla, ¿no? No, ninguno, ¿no? No one es nadie, nobody, nadie, nothing, nada, nowhere, ningún lugar. Every refers to all, todos, ¿no? Everyone, todos. Everything, todo. Everywhere, todos los lugares. Everywhere. So we have here the indefinite pronouns. These are called the indefinite pronouns. So we could say everyone agreed. Everyone is an indefinite pronoun and it's a noun phrase. Es una frase nominal. A noun phrase. Everyone agreed. Now, the other structure, determiner plus noun. Determiners are a kind of a noun modifier. They precede and are necessarily followed by nouns. They refer to a relatively limited set of well-established words that can be said to mark nouns. Their function is to express reference. They clarify what a noun is referring to. Now remember, determiners are noun modifiers. Remember, they are noun modifiers. And they follow, they are necessarily followed by nouns. So they need nouns to appear in a sentence, all right? They cannot be alone or stand alone, as Abraham says, no? So here you have that they refer to a limited set of established words that can be said to mark nouns, no? We don't have a lot of words in determiner. We have just a small group of determiners. For example, you have that box. The listener knows which box is being referred to. So I'm modifying the noun. I'm referring to a box especially. That box, not any other box. That box. So you're specifying which now you're talking about. All right? Estoy especificando de qué caja estoy hablando. Esa caja, no? That box. So this is a determiner. Determiners are used in front of nouns to indicate whether you're referring to something specific or something or a particular time. So we have a lot of determiners. So we have the possessives, mine, our, your, his, her, its, their. Ordinal numbers, first, second, third, next, last. Distributives, each, every, neither, either. Quantifiers, much, some, no, any, many, enough, several, little, all, lot of, plenty of, another. The articles, a, an, da. Numerals, 1, 2, 3, 10, 50, 100, 1,000. Predeterminers, all of, what, such, rather, quiet, twice, double, both. So notice that we have these determiners. They are used in front of nouns. Acuérdense, utilizo estos determinadores antes de los sustantivos para indicar, ¿no?, a qué me estoy refiriendo y especificar, ¿no?, sobre algo en particular. Ese es el uso de los determinadores, ¿no? Y siempre van a estar precedidos, le va a seguir un sustantivo, ¿no? Y tengo los posesivos, los ordinales, los distributivos, los cuantificadores, los artículos, los numerales y los predeterminadores. Son palabras que me van a ayudar a mí a dar más aspectos específicos sobre el sustantivo, ¿no? Me digo car, allá, my car, your car, his car. Estoy dando aspectos de posesión, ¿no? Específico, que es mi carro, tu carro, su carro. Estoy dando más detalles sobre el sustantivo, ¿no? Es lo que estamos viendo para formar la frase nominal, ¿no? Voy a utilizar palabra o grupo de palabras que van a dar información sobre el sustantivo. Los ordinales. First, the first two boys, decimos, ¿no? The second boy or the third boy is talking. Distributive, each one or each boy must talk. Estoy dándole más detalles a ese sustantivo boy, ¿no? Much, some, several children were playing in the garden. Plenty of people were in the party. Le estoy dando más detalles al sustantivo. Le tengo los artículos, a boy, an apple, the boy. Estoy dando más detalles del sustantivo. Eso se les llama determinadores, ¿no? Determiner plus noun. So this is another structure to make noun phrases. Remember, we're talking about the noun phrases. Let's talk about some special words. And sometimes we get confused, no? Remember, when we want to translate something, try to remember that we have different languages. Spanish, English, they are different. So they have different syntactical structures. Sometimes when we translate, we want to translate as we say it in Spanish, we want to translate it in English. And sometimes we make some mistakes. Let's see, this is a common example of these mistakes using the definite article the. The is used to give information about a particular or known nouns. Remember, particular or known nouns. Use of the in case of count and non-count nouns. The can either be used with non-count nouns or the article can be omitted entirely. Notice that you can omit this article. For example, she liked to sail over the water. Here, some specific body of water is being talked about. Notice the other. She liked to sail over water. No article. Here, no particular water is being talked about. It can refer to any water. Miren aquí la diferencia entre estas dos oraciones. ¿Eh? She liked to sail over the water. She liked to sail over water. Ese es uno de los errores que a veces son más comunes que cometemos cuando hablamos en español y en inglés, ¿no? En nuestro idioma generalmente utilizamos siempre el artículo definido, ¿no? Pero va a haber casos en el inglés que no utilizo el artículo. ¿Por qué? Porque este artículo solamente me sirve a mí para especificar de qué, de quién o de dónde estoy hablando. Pero si yo hablo de manera general, ya no utilizo el artículo da. ¿Eh? Ya no voy a utilizar el artículo da. Por eso la diferencia entre esas dos oraciones, ¿no? Cuando utilizo el da, me está dando a entender que voy a utilizar o estoy hablando de ese cuerpo de agua específico. O sea, el que habla ya sabe de qué tipo de agua estoy hablando, o está hablando, o a qué tipo de agua se está refiriendo. En cambio, si yo no sé, y voy a hablar del agua en general, ahí ya no utilizo el da. Por eso la segunda oración ya no va en el artículo. She liked to sail over water. No particular water is being referred to or talked about. You are talking about any water. All right? Any water. Cualquier tipo de agua. So notice here the use of the definite article. Use of that in the case of geography. Do not use that before. Remember, you don't have to use that before. Names of most countries and territories. India, Brazil, Canada. Know that. But here you have, however, you have some countries that you're going to use that. The Netherlands, the Dominican Republic, the Philippines, the United States. But the other countries, remember, we have more countries that we don't use that. All right? You couldn't say the Brazil or the Canada. No, 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 no. Just Brazil, just Canada, just India, Peru. Another, names of cities, towns, or states. Toronto, Delhi, Sao Paulo. Names of streets. Caldwell Drive, Park Avenue. So you don't use the. Remember, no the. In our language, we use that. En nuestro idioma se utiliza, ¿no? Ah, la avenida Las Flores, ¿no? La avenida Pedro Tello. La avenida César Vallejo, la. En inglés no se utiliza el da. Digo, oh, César Vallejo Street. O Las Flores Street. Notice, no da. Names of the streets, you don't use the. Names of lakes and bays. Lake Michigan, Lake Ontario, except while referring to a group of lakes, the Great Lakes. Bueno, los lagos no utilizan el artículo da. Lake Michigan. For example, no, when you say, oh, last year I went to Titicaca Lake. No vayan a poner, I went to the Titicaca Lake. No. That is not used with names of lakes. I went to Titicaca Lake. No da. No se olviden, no voy a utilizar el artículo da, sino que hay veces, vuelvo a repetir, cuando queremos traducirlo, allá, fui a la isla Titicaca, ¿no? Allá, la, como digo, la, da. Ya está, ya cometimos un error. Miren, ya estamos cometiendo un error. Porque en el idioma inglés no se utiliza el artículo da cuando hablo de estos tipos de lugares geográficos. Names of mountains, Mount Everest, Mount Fuji. Names of continents, Asia, Europe. Names of islands, Easter Island, Maui, Key West. Use that before. Here we're going to use that. Names of rivers, oceans, seas. Points in the globe, geographical areas, deserts, forests, and gulfs. The rivers, the Ganga, the Indian Ocean. The points in the globe, the equator, the South Pole. Geographical areas, the Southeast, the Asia Pacific, desert, forest, Gulf, the Kalahari Desert, the Sundarbans. So notice the uses of the. And don't forget when you're going to use the or not. Es muy importante recordar el uso de este artículo da para cuando hablamos de casos geográficos, ¿no? De lugares geográficos. No se olviden, cuando hablo de países, territorios, por lo general no se utiliza da. Hay ciertos países que sí se va a utilizar da, pero por lo general no se utiliza da. Para nombre de ciudades, pueblos, estados, de calles, de lagos, bahías, montañas, continentes y de islas, no utilizo el artículo da. ¿Cuándo utilizo el artículo da? Para nombres de ríos, océanos, mares, puntos, ¿no? En el globo terráqueo, áreas geográficas o desiertos o selvas, ¿no? Junglas o golfos. Ahí utilizo el artículo da. Non-definite article, a or an. As you know, we have these two definite, non-definite article. A or an is used to talk about things which are not particular. Usually these are things that haven't been mentioned before or that the listener is unfamiliar with. Rules. Usage is on the basis of sound. Remember, this is very important to remember. The usage of these two words is based on the pronunciation, not the spelling. Acuérdense esta reglita que está basada en la pronunciación, no en la escritura. No sabemos, ¿no? La A, ya profesor, la A es cuando le sigue una consonante y el A cuando le sigue una vocal. Pero acuérdense que eso se refiere a la pronunciación, no a la escritura. A is used before a word beginning with a consonant sound. Here says clearly, consonant sound. Consonant letters in English alphabet are B, C, D, F, G, and so you have until Z. No? Examples, a boy, a cat, a dog, a fight, a gym, a horse, a joke, a kite, a lion, a mirror, etc. Exception, here you have a one-eyed dog, a European, a user, a united front, a university, a unicycle. Why do we use here an? ¿Por qué no utilizo aquí an? A ver, teacher, a one. It starts with a letter.
Sound. Because
Aha.
they are the sound.
Yes, Abraham, that's it. The sound. For example, one. Vamos a analizar la palabrita one. One, profesor, ya comienza con la letra O. Ya, listo, profesor. And one, no. Dice, a one-eyed dog. ¿Por qué? Porque esta palabra cuando la pronuncio, comienza con la consonante, el sonido consonántico wo, 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 one. One, no digo an, digo one. Comienza con la consonante wo. Y por lo tanto utilizo el artículo a one-eyed dog. Lo mismo sucede con European. User, united, university, unicycle, It starts, so these words start with the sound ya. Ya. Todas estas palabritas comienzan con la consonante ya. Escribo, la letra es una vocal, pero el sonido es una consonante. No digo European, no digo European, digo European. No digo united, no digo united, digo united. University, no digo university, digo university. Comienzan con un sonido consonántico. Entonces, esta reglita, recalco, es para sonidos. No se vayan a olvidar. And is used before a word beginning with a vowel sound. Vowel letters in English alphabet, you know, A, E, I, O, U. No, these are the letters. But here we're talking about sounds. Examples, an apple, an elephant, an idiot, an orange, an umbrella, etc. The exception, an hour, an honest man, an heir, an honorable idea. Notice that this word starts with the letter H. Noten que todas estas palabras comienzan con la letra H. Profesor, consonante. ¿Por qué an? Porque esa consonante no suena. Silent letter. So you start with a vowel sound. Hour. No digo hour. Digo hour. Honest. No digo honest. Honest. Air. No hair. Air. Honorable. No, honorable. So you start with a vowel sound. That's why we use the article an hour, an honest, an ear, an honorable idea. So notice here the uses of the article a or an. Don't forget about it. Referring to sounds. Don't forget it. This rule is refer to sounds, not letters. Not letters. We're just getting to the end. Remember, when to use a or an. A or an is used when mentioning something for the first time. I went for a movie, so you start talking about the movie, and this is the first time you mention it, so you use a movie. When talking about something which belongs to a set of the same thing, this is a pen. So it means that you're talking about that this thing belongs to a set, a group of pens. No? When talking about someone who belongs to a certain group, she's an engineer. When talking about a certain kind of a thing, I've had made a great movie. When wanting to say that someone's a certain kind of person, she's a shy girl. So notice the uses of a or an. Remember, when you talked about something for the first time, when you talked about something which belongs to a set of the same thing, when talking about someone who belongs to a certain group of people, when talking about a certain kind of a thing, and finally, when you want to say that someone is a certain kind of person. No? You specify, no? You specify. She's a shy girl or an intelligent girl. No? So you're specifying, no? A certain kind of person. And notice the structure that we are going to use. ¿No? Miren aquí la estructura que vamos a ir utilizando con esta forma, ¿no? Determiner plus noun. So we have the determiner, in this case is the article. What kind of article? Is a definite article, da. And the noun is a countable noun, singular, no? The band played on Sunday. And the other, the noun phrase is composed by a determiner plus a noun. The determiner now is an article. A non-definite article, you use a boy. A boy is playing. So notice here that we are using this noun phrase. No, this is the noun phrase. All right. So we have analyzed the different structures in order to make noun phrases. ¿No? Entonces, miren, hemos visto, vamos a retroceder rápidamente, going back so fast to talk about the different structures of noun phrase. So in order to make noun phrases, we use proper nouns, personal pronouns, indefinite pronouns, and determiners plus nouns. Esas son las 4 estructuras que yo puedo utilizar para hacer una frase nominal, ¿no? Acuérdense, noun phrase o sintagma nominal. Utilizo sustantivos propios, utilizo pronombres personales, utilizo pronombres indefinidos y utilizo los famosos determinadores más sustantivos, ¿no? Determinadores ya hemos visto cuáles son. Vamos aquí repasarlos rápidamente. Acuérdense que estos son los pronombres indefinidos. Determinadores tenemos estos, ¿no? Los posesivos, los ordinales, los cuantificadores, los distributivos, los artículos, los numerales y los predeterminadores. Y por último vimos los que son los artículos, ¿no? Que es, como les volví a repetir, a veces nos confundimos, nos olvidamos, queremos traducir igual lo que hacemos en español, lo queremos pasar al inglés, y ahí nos olvidamos que el inglés tiene otra estructura, ¿no? Tiene otra estructura sintáctica para el uso de los artículos. No se olviden que el da vamos a utilizarlos en ciertos casos para lugares geográficos y en otros no. Y los artículos a o an, fíjense que la reglita para usarlos no es la letra, no es la escritura, sino la pronunciación. Se utiliza a cuando le va a seguir un sonido consonántico y se utiliza an cuando le sigue un sonido vocálico. Acuérdense, es sonido, no letra. En varios casos concuerdan, ¿no? Pero hay que tener cuidado en esos casos donde no concuerdan. O sea, yo tengo que guiarme por la pronunciación. ¿Ya? No se olviden eso. Y esa es la estructura que acabamos de terminar. Well, That's all for today. So here we were talking about this noun phrase, how to make noun phrases. Next class, we are going to talk about how to make verb phrases. Yeah, this is the next topic for the next session. Don't forget, please, to read all the material that you have in the platform. Yeah, so don't forget to do that in order to get some knowledge, some ideas about a topic that we are talking about. And also you can make some questions. No? It's very important that you can read the material and you can make some questions. Maybe you couldn't understand some things, but don't worry that we are going to cover all the topics that you have in the material. So if you couldn't understand, so you can ask to, all right? Well, so that's all for today. See you next class, next session. Have a nice weekend. Well, I'm gonna have not a nice weekend because I have a terrible flu. So, but I think you're gonna have a better week than me. So let's see next week. Take care a lot. Bye bye.
Good night, teacher.
Bye bye. Take care a lot. Bye bye.